10 years, 10 long years, Attack on Titan, one of the biggest, most successful anime franchises of all time, is finally over. And did the ending live up to the hype? That's what we're going to be talking about here today. I want to say I just watched it last night. I was able to marinate over it this morning, but I haven't been watching other people's reaction. I know people did not like the ending to the manga. There's a large community of people who did not like the ending to the manga, and were even hoping that the anime would change that, which they in fact did not do. I stuck with their guns, which I think no matter what you say about the ending is the respectable call, to respect the creator of the adaptation. And you've gone 99% of the way through, and you stuck with your guns, carried it through over the finish line. No matter what you say about the ending, I think that is a respectable thing to do, especially to the author. What Isayama wanted the anime to be is going to be way more important than what Soul, the dude with 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, wants it to be. But for those who are interested, I'm here to talk about what I saw last night, and I will tell you how dedicated I was to watching this thing. I had to wake up at 2 a.m. this morning to go to work. The special came out at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and then Crunchyroll and their fucking useless ass servers crashed, because of course it did. It's not the first time. I know this shit's gonna be like an hour and a half long. I'm just hitting refresh, waiting for Crunchyroll to get their shit together. Hi, Bella. Stop being so cute. I need at least one video by myself. But once I was able to get it up and running, thank God for daylight savings time. I'm only a little bit sleep deprived, and I'm here to talk about what happened last night. But I haven't made that many videos about Attack on Titan. I want to give you guys a foundation of where I'm coming at with this series. When I tell people, when they ask me, when did you get into anime? How long have you been an anime fan? I usually have the go-to response of, oh, I came in on the Attack on Titan Sword Art Online boom. But don't get me wrong, I did grow up with anime. I watched Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Digimon, everything that was marketed to kids in the 2000s. And then like 2011, 2012, I started to watch anime. I started to watch all my old shows like Naruto, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Shaman King. And that's when it started to become a real thing. Like, anime is this thing I watch on the internet that I really enjoy. I started watching anime YouTubers like Giga. I'd watch like a dozen anime just off whatever he reviewed. And then 2013 is the first time I watched anime seasonally. And the big anime of that year and of that time and of that generation was Attack on Titan. This is when Crunchyroll actually became like a legal website that you can watch anime on. It's like a legit streaming service. So Attack on Titan was the first time that I and a lot of other people were a part of this big movement in the anime space. And keep in mind, anime is still for losers back then. Nobody likes anime, and this was like one of the first shows that knocked down the door and said, no, this is fucking awesome and you should watch it. And that's what Attack on Titan was for me for a very long time, because the show went on hiatus after that. Next season didn't come out for years and years and years. And in that time, there was a lot of discussion like, oh, Attack on Titan is overhyped. Attack on Titan is not as good as we thought it was. The second season did not hit like a lot of people thought it would either. Personally, I remember giving like the second season a 6 out of 10. I was bored. I forgot why I should care about these characters. But around the third season, when it really started to get into high gear, that's when I remembered why Attack on Titan is fucking amazing. I loved the rest of the third season. Fourth season was amazing. And around the time the final season was concluding, I showed my wife, who was an Attack on Titan naysayer, I showed her why the show is so great, and it was great for me. And I will tell this to anybody, if you watched it seasonally throughout the years, and you had large year-long gaps in between each season, this story hits so much better when you actually don't have these giant sessions in between. There's a lot of character motivations that I would forget, or certain little rules for the universe I wouldn't pick up on, and once I knew what was going to happen, I could see the breadcrumbs that were left for me a long time ago. And this is a show that I think should have had more breadcrumbs. I think it's very frustrating when you're halfway through the show and they just keep dropping these little question marks everywhere and don't tell you anything. But once you actually do know what's going to happen and what they're leading up to, again, watch Attack on Titan again, trust me. And that all led up to this moment right here, the grand finale, the ending of Attack on Titan that manga readers were warning us about for a while now. And I did not get spoiled. I will say, Attack on Titan, I didn't get spoiled for a goddamn thing for this show, and it was glorious. And did the ending live up to all of it? In my opinion, yes. I actually really enjoyed the ending last night. As I've had more time to reflect on a couple things, there are some moments that aren't great. It's definitely spotty. It's definitely confusing. They definitely backpedal on some things. Isayama 100% changes the story and how it was going to play out as it was happening, and it definitely shows. Aaron's a giant Elden Ring boss stomping around the world, and we drop in on his ass, and immediately the animation has been beautiful for a long time, and it continues to do so. The music, phenomenal. One of the things I was worried about actually was like, oh, how are you gonna have an interesting battle with this giant skeleton motherfucker? But he actually is able to summon other titans from the past. All the other special titans throughout history, he's able to just pop them out and make like little clones. And they fight our ragtag team of heroes, and that's actually a pretty badass battle. I don't want to hear a single person complaining about CGI anymore because it looked beautiful. That being said, it does get a little weird. The first thing that didn't really make a whole lot of sense is why a bunch of like the old titans we know came back for a second, and that was kind of weird. And then there's this pig titan that we've never seen before that suddenly eats Armin. And at first I asked myself, why doesn't he just kill Armin? But then I told myself, well, Eren could kill all these guys just by snapping his fingers. And that's where it gets into a very complicated mess of Eren's consciousness and desires are now tangling with Ymir's, and both of those are conflicting with each other and themselves. Obviously, this is going to be spoilers, by the way, and this is just my interpretation of it. Again, I've not gone into my deep lore dissection. I haven't watched like the big hour-long analysis videos of how this finale played out. But this is my interpretation. Keep in mind, Eren's motivation throughout this entire series is constantly changing. He's like Sasuke, but 10 times worse. He wanted to kill all the Titans, and then he found out everyone he loves and himself is a Titan, but they're being oppressed by the Titans in charge, so he's like, hey, we should kill the Titans in charge, and then it's like, oh, we find out that they were actually being oppressed by this other group of people that aren't Titans, so he's like, I'm gonna kill everyone that isn't a Titan, but then he says to himself, we're just gonna stop everyone from having Titans in the future. JK, I'm gonna kill everyone that isn't a Titan. I'm a bad guy now, but my brain is being infused with this other person who does want to kill everybody, including my friends, as long as it means the people we don't like die. And I'm doing all of this for my friends that I love, and I could kill them to get the job done, but I don't want to kill them. I'm gonna make sure we get like 80% of the way there. I'm gonna make sure my mom dies just so things happen the exact same way that they're in my head. But he knew all this was gonna happen at the same time, and he was very conflicted about it, and he wanted to wipe out everyone, but he knew it wasn't gonna happen anyway, so he thought, hey, I want my friends to kill me before I do that. Yeah. It's confusing, and it's not great. Eren, up to this point, has been one of the coolest fucking characters in anime, and I don't care what people say about that. His heel turn from becoming the virtuous young boy into this sadistic monster of a creature, and yes, he didn't fully stay a bad guy, and he didn't fully come back around. It's not like he was like, oh, I was being brainwashed. They kind of met somewhere in the middle, which is potentially the worst decision out of that. But everything Eren did captivated me. Everything he did intrigued me, and I kind of like it being a little bit open to interpretation where I can kind of try to make sense of it. I like stories where I can do that. And even if you don't like Eren's arc, a lot of other characters had beautiful payoffs to their arcs in this finale. Jean is a character I did not give a fuck about when I first watched it, but as I rewatched the whole story and I saw him go from this person that just didn't want to be a part of anything happening, and then in this finale, he looks death in the face without fear and says, hey, that's just what scouts do. Attack on Titan is so anti-war, and at the same time, it's still able to tell these super interesting soldier stories. Jean's story and Levi's story, another character who had a very beautiful payoff. I know some people probably disagree with me here. Some people probably want Levi to walk into the sunset. He has his happy ending, or maybe he died just like all his friends in a beautiful bloody mess. But instead they did something a little bit more tender. Levi looked all around him at this mess of a finale and said, this is what we fought for, my brothers in arms. Looked all of them in the eye. With visions of all of them around him, he shed a tear. And I don't think this is meant to be a happy ending. He says this is the conclusion that we fought for. But Attack on Titan is not a happy ending story. In real life, a soldier doesn't just find world peace and then smile on his way into the sunset. A soldier looks at whatever the outcome that was decided by forces that are way bigger than that person are, and has to wrestle with the question, was it all worth it? And that is open to interpretation if you think Levi thought it was. But at the very least, this man made it across the finish line. Attack on Titan was that show where everybody died, but somehow Levi's crippled ass made it across that finish line. And a lot of the other character payoffs I'm talking about, they're not like super well written epilogues, but it's more just like, oh, Annie got to see her father again. We find out that Connie's mom has been turned back to a human and he'll be able to reunite with her. There's a couple little things, like I think Annie and Armin could have used some kind of conversation, a little bit more of an epilogue between those characters. Gabby and Falco didn't really do shit in this either. Falco had a crazy transformation. I thought that was really cool. I think it was a little out of nowhere, but like with epic finales where shit like this happens, I don't care. That was cool. And then we have the main trio, Armin, Mikasa, Eren. One thing that I'm not entirely clear about is what happened with Zeke, because there's this big payoff where Levi finally kills Zeke, and then it seems like the rumbling stops, and then Ymir, or at least like the giant centipede thing that I think represents Ymir, was swimming just out in the open. Reiner was wrestling with it. Eren turns into a colossal titan. So I don't know if this is like Ymir letting Eren, you know, turn into a colossal titan and is trying to fight everybody and turning people into titans, like Connie and Jean turn into titans for a little bit. Or Eren's still in control here. Maybe Ymir is letting him use her powers. Again, it's confusing. I'm not denying that. This is a show that really had a solid understanding of its world and its powers and how things worked. And I'm not gonna lie, it does feel like some of that falls apart in this ending just to make the hype moments a little hyper. But I'm not gonna lie, it does accomplish those feelings. I think that's the most important thing, is you feel the emotions that they want you to feel. And if one of those feelings is you thinking it's pretty cool when two colossal titans are having a fist fight, this all leads up to Armin nuking Eren. Mikasa infiltrates it, looks Eren dead in the eye. She cuts his head off, thus finally killing Eren. And she's even kissing his severed head. And I know some people probably don't like this, but I think this is a beautiful, poetic ending to this arc. The severed head kiss and all, I loved what they did with this. And there's even conversation that Eren has with everybody. It's almost like a goodbye. I don't know if he's using the founding Titan powers to talk with everyone one last time, or I think the way they described it is that he had these conversations with people in the past, but then he just wiped their memory with the power later. He even plays this little fantasy for Mikasa where they could have lived together if they ran away, and it was beautiful. And I love those little what if stories that stories throw in there. It's a little La La Land ending sequence for those two. And as beautiful as that would have been, it was not meant to be. There's a great conversation with Armin. I remember him saying like, I'll see you in hell. And he doesn't say it in like a mean way. He means it in, I'm such a loyal friend that I know you're going to hell. I know I'm probably going to hell. I killed a few people. That even in death, after all this, we're still gonna be friends, even though you're a psycho murderer. And it's the same way with Mikasa, but in a much different way. She fought her instincts, she fought her love. And through Eren's conversation with Armin, we found out that, yeah, he liked Mikasa romantically the same way, but obviously it was a little bit complicated. Actually, I did hear a couple people's opinion. I lied earlier. I read a couple comments when I was giving my score on Mao, which this is still sitting at a comfortable 9. People currently like the finale, despite what the manga readers have said. But one person went in on how Eren is this flip-floppy character who in the end was just acting like a little bitch. In this moment, Eren is able to talk to Armin not only at his most vulnerable, but at his most honest. He's not putting up the facade in this moment. He's speaking to him honestly, and they kind of just regress back to when they were younger. He speaks like a child because that's how they used to speak to each other when things were innocent, and this moment is an innocent one. So yes, everything they did with Eren, Mikasa, and Armin was perfect, and I think those are the characters that needed these moments for this finale to be successful. Obviously, the spectacle, the music, the animation, those are things that I think are really important that they landed too, but those three characters those moments I think are the truly important things, and I think those were perfect. Things aren't super smooth after that though. It's implied that, yeah, the war is just gonna keep going on. Marleyans and Eldians will fight for the end of time. Armin tries to have like a little ceasefire, but when they get back on the ship, they're like, oh, I hope Eldia doesn't blow us up. And then we find out that Eldia is still a bunch of Jaegerists, and they're just gonna make an army, and they're just gonna keep fighting. And then there's the ending sequence. But again, Attack on Titan is a very anti-war story, and it's not a happy ending, happy, pretty bow conflict resolution story either. It says that war will happen for all eternity, the cycle will continue, and I'm sorry to break it to you, that's what's been happening in real life for all eternity, and I pray to God it's gonna get better one day, but I didn't need a fairy tale pretty bow ending where everything worked itself out. I don't think after what happened with the rumbling, anything would ever be alright ever again. But we have a couple final moments. We have this moment with Armin clasping at this feather that fell from a bird, implying that no matter what you take away from all of this, he finally has that freedom. And Mikasa has her final moments with Eren burying his head. She buries his head at that very infamous tree. Under the tree. I love that song. Anyway, during the ending sequence, we see a time lapse of Eldia. It reaches the modern age, and then we see it literally destroying itself throughout the years, building itself back up, destroying itself. Again, it's not a happy ending. It's not implying that things are gonna be better. And the final shot is a young boy coming to this tree, and it almost implies that the cycle will continue and that this boy, with Eren's head, that also proves that he does have some founding Titan powers in there, will become the founding Titan once more, and this is all gonna continue. I will say it again, there's a lot of things you can say badly about this ending, but personally, and I think all of that is kind of perfect. And by perfect, I don't mean things worked out the exact way they should have. I mean, it's kind of a perfect mess, where the moments that really needed to happen, the things I really actually cared about, those had beautiful payoffs, great moments, and they caught me emotionally. Like, obviously, Eren's motivation matters, and I think giving him the power to change things in history, like have his mom killed, I don't think those are good decisions. Maybe the Attack Titan seeing the future all at once throughout history, maybe that wasn't such a good idea as we thought it was, as cool of a moment it was. But by being such a complicated mess, I think it's opened things to interpretation, and it's added some weird nuanced layers to this story that we're going to be talking about for a very long time. And these are just my day after rambling thoughts. I would love to make more videos about Attack on Titan. Maybe I'll go and read the manga one day. As much of a mess the ending is, I'm sure this video is even messier. And if you like messy, clustery videos like this, please give this video a like. I'm a small YouTuber. I pay attention to the likes on my videos, and I do take into consideration what people click thumbs up for and what people didn't, what things were just clickbait that people turned off, and what things they might have actually listened to. So if you've made it this far, you are one of the glorious chosen ones who I super appreciate, and I thank you. And if you have not subscribed, please do so. I have plenty of other stupid videos where I talk about anime just like this one, and plenty more to come. I'm still just kind of in a haze where I don't fully believe that Attack on Titan has ended. It's also like a relief, like I'm afraid to put things in my top 10 before they're over, but I can now officially say, yes, with the ending intact, Attack on Titan is in my top 10. Throw it in my 3x3. I can finally say I love Attack on Titan. And with that being said, thank you for watching, and with that, I leave you.